Hola, I'm Claudia Romo Edelman.
And I'm Cynthia Kleinbaum-Milner.
And this is a podcast, A la Latina.
The playbook to succeed being your authentic self.
Today, the incredible Teresa Barreira. She's the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Communication Officer of Publicis Sapient. And here are the 3 key takeaways.
Number 1, she tells us how she started really her career working in her father's cafe when she was 7 years old, and how that experience made her be scrappy, resilient, and very entrepreneurial.
Number 2, how her background is her superpower, but she discovered that far too late in her career, and how you should be able to identify that always your background is a source of superpower, so discover it early.
And number 3, she gave us her framework to be great at super prioritizing. She says that it's better to focus on what you are not going to do instead of what you are going to do.
All of that and more here at A la Latina.
Stick around. Before this episode starts, go to alalatina.com and sign up for our newsletter. We've put together a ton of career advice and worksheets that you can download to manage your career and get to the top in half the time
with half the bruises. A la Latina. Today, the incredible Teresa Barreira. She is the Chief Marketing Officer and Communication Officer of Publicis Sapient.
Teresa has over 25 years of global B2B marketing experience in companies like IBM and Accenture, as well as startup software organizations. She is the former CMO of Deloitte Consulting. She has received not 1, not 2, but 3 Clio Awards, and she's the Global ACE Award recipient for social impact documentaries that she has produced.
It's such an honor having you here with us. Bienvenida.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Tell us, who are you? What's your story? What made you be who you are and what you do today?
How much time do you have?
Yeah, let's go.
I am originally from Portugal. I grew up in a small village of less than 1,000 people, northern part of Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very rural village. Well, most people lived off the land. And, a lot of people didn't have like running water, including my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
But it was a beautiful community. My parents in that village were small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
They owned a cafe, a restaurant, and a grocery store. So I grew up from an age of 7 years old, as I can remember, working in those business. When I think back, our cafe was sort of the town public square,
Uh-huh.
where all people came together to have lively conversations, to debate. Now,
Yeah.
Traditionally, only men came to the cafe. Women were only came in the weekend, which it really forced me to have a voice and to speak up. And that was a phenomenal experience because it really, really shaped who I am today and the way I think.
Were there any role models, or who were you looking up to in that community that made you say, I'm going to be a CMO in Boston and I'm going to have this high-powered job? Like, how did you envision your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I had a lot of role models throughout my career and a lot of help along the way. But my mother, in terms of the biggest influence in my life, was probably her.
You moved here with your mother?
I moved my mother and my sister. So my father had this business. And when I was 12 years old, he had a heart attack and he passed away very unexpectedly. So my mother was left with this business. And one of these businesses, a cafe, which again, women did not go to the cafe, especially at night. Just there was a weekend thing. So she couldn't even run that business.
Mm-hmm.
So after about 5 years later, all my mom's siblings, they were already living in America, in the suburbs of Boston. My grandfather actually had emigrated many years ago to the United States. And the tradition back then is the men emigrate and the women stay behind. In my case, my mother was the oldest, so the one stayed behind.
Yeah.
And the others went with my grandfather. So my grandfather had this whole life, and I had all these aunts and cousins in Boston. They would see him in the summer. So they said to my mother, "Why are you there? Move here." So that's where we get the whole immigration process, and then 5 years later, we moved to America.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this woman, 45 years old. She's leaving a country, a village she never been anywhere. She'd never been to an airport. She'd never been to a plane. I had been in a plane. I was 17 years old at the time. And she left everything she knew behind. So she had to arrive in a new country, a new language. She's probably the most resilient and stronger woman that I probably ever met. And she really, really believed in education.
Yeah.
For her, that was freedom. Education was an equalizer. And she has such a strong, so when we arrived, for her to say, no matter what, you both were going to go to university. And that was for her the most important thing. And that's why and my mother never saw obstacles.
But I want to see because from that story of the 17-year-old in your little town to running marketing for a tech company, tell us more about the values that helped you jump to be where you are, that have made you successful.
Absolutely. And I often tell this to people on my team. The way I lead today, actually, I didn't learn to work in larger companies and like IBM or Accenture or Deloitte. I actually learned it from my culture, from my background, and from my childhood. I learned those values from the early age when I was working my parents' business. My father, when he passed away at 12 years old, I took over the store. We had a grocery store. I had to manage the entire store.
Right, small business as well.
Small business.
Exactly.
I had to be the marketing, the sales, the accountant. I deal with the distribution, the vendors. I place all the orders. I did everything. And what it taught me is how to be scrappy, how to be entrepreneurial, how to be resilient, how to, I had to, all the things, my leadership today comes from those values. Those are the things that really inform the way I lead. I lead always with innovation. I'm always looking for different ways to do things, how to change, how to always be ahead. I'm a CMO today, and I believe the CMOs today, they constantly have to evolve. They constantly have to change.
Scrappy.
Totally scrappy. But those things, like when you're managing a small business, that's what you learn.
Yeah. Right.
I was saying to somebody the other day, I never started a business because my parents did. Yeah. But through all my career, I always been entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Right. The entrepreneur of you.
Absolutely.
And also I'd just like to say the piece of the cafe that struck like a chord with me is I could see you looking at all these guys and you're like, you have to pay the bill. How did you do that? Like not only getting your voice, but also getting them to do what you needed them to do.
Absolutely. And that's how one of the things that I often have this phrase with my team, we have to put the fish on the table.
Yeah.
We say that. And that comes from that environment to say, we have to deal with conflict. I'm a big believer that tension is actually good. Let's discuss it.
Tension is good.
Tension is very good. It's good for teams. It's good for business because it's better to have a conversation in the beginning than at the end. I could never work in an environment that's passive aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm a very open person. I deal with open dialogue. And again, what did I learn that? Not in large companies. Large companies sometimes hide behind words. And because I'm, English is my second language, Latina, right? I don't have a lot of words. I just tell you this is how it is.
Yeah.
I'm very direct. But that comes from that background. And I tell you another thing, it took me a long time to understand that. A very long time in my career.
To understand that you could debate and have healthy tension
understand that my background was my superpower. I never answer your question, so I'm going to go back to that. How do I become a CMO? Not knowing what CMO was. So my mother, again, she would not have it any other way. Whatever she would do, she worked 2 jobs. I mean, she worked in a factory. She worked in a hotel as a housekeeper in the evening, so we could go to university. And she had so we did that. My sister and I went to university. So because I didn't know any other professions, she would say to me, you are going to university and you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. That's it. And if you can't go do one of those 2, you're going to be a banker.
Okay.
That's no other way. So I went to university as a pre-med major. I was a pretty good student. And in my sophomore year, I come in contact with organic chemistry. Yeah, we were not friends.
No. I don't even know what's organic chemistry.
You don't want to know.
Awful, yeah.
I realized I'm not going to be able to be a doctor. I can't be in a lab. So then I said, okay, I have to be a lawyer. So I switched my major to political science and economics. Now, I'm a political science major, right? I hardly speak English. So I go to college. I change to political science and economics and international relations. I'm going to go be a lawyer.
But like you must have been studying really hard, because everything that everybody would study in like an hour, must have taken you 4 hours to read the material.
Yes, you know what I've learned now? I always been very good at looking for patterns and look at the things that matter.
You've been clever.
Yeah. I always look, I think this is what matters. And even today, like what I've always been really good in my career is that you don't have to do everything. You just have to do the thing that matters.
Yeah.
And then you do that and you do it very well, and then you market the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And so even in college, I realized I used to spend a lot of times with the TAs to realize what is that I need to focus on. So I've been very good at that. So that's why I actually end up doing very well in school. But yes, I had to learn how to, and I had to spend a lot of time reading. So my junior year, I said, I'm going to go to law school. And I started studying for the LSATs. And as I'm studying for the LSATs, I'm realizing I don't think this is for me. And one day, my roommate, she was a business major. She said to me, you should take the GMAT. And I'm like, what is the GMAT? It's an exam for business school. I think you'd be good in business school. So literally, I went she was taking the test. I went with her to this auditorium, brought a $50 check, and I never studied, but I had studied for the LSAT. But I had never studied for the GMAT. I walk in there, give the check, take the test. And to my surprise, I did well.
Really? Because 50% of the GMAT is language and 50% of the GMAT is math.
That's the math. Think about it. I grew up in a store. There was no cash register. Yes. I was so really good at mental math. I had to do everything in my head. That's the math part that I did really well.
And so you associate math with marketing. That's that one thing led to the other.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
So then I said, okay, then I take the GMAT and I'm going to go to business school. Still don't know what a business school is. So then I applied to business school. I had no work experience, but Northeastern has a co-op program, and they accept me to the co-op program because I had to work for 6 months. Now I associate business school and math with finance.
I see.
So I said, I'm going to go in finance. I do my 6 months co-op in finance. Oh, I hated it.
Okay.
Spreadsheets. After spreadsheet, I go back and say, I cannot do this. So I take every elective in marketing. And then I graduate and IBM offers me a job. But IBM back then, this is in the early 90s, they wanted everybody to learn how to sell. So you had to sell for a year.
They came to my college and the program was, I almost took a job there and everybody went through sales. That was like how you would get
that's what we did.
IBM.
We had to go to sales training for 3 months and then go sell. So here I go. And in this sales training, they had this competition. We had to go at the end, with 500 of us, we had to deliver a presentation how to sell this product. It's called OS2. It's in museums now. And I did not the product, but I sold it as I created a business problem. And then I talk about the problem. I never talked about the product because I didn't come from a technical background. And actually I won. I won the competition. They gave me a ThinkPad and they said, okay, go sell.
But you hated sales too.
So, think about me right now. What I'd like to do, talk. What do salespeople do? Listen.
Yeah.
You got to know.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, so
you're a good listener.
But you know what? There's something there with IBM and sales, because I think everybody has to be a good salesperson, even if you're just telling your story.
Yes.
Whatever you're selling, you're an entrepreneur. So it's a good opportunity.
It is amazing. Sales. I actually think everybody should go through that. It's really good because you have to learn how to talk to people, deal with objections. And mostly the hardest thing in a sales is asking for the business. Because you could talk to people. I never liked that. I just like to chat with people, take them out to lunch. But what I learned in that process is what I like to do is to present. So with a $50 budget, being scrappy again, every Friday, I would, in Boston at the Copley, I would put together a seminar. I literally took $50, created a brochure, took it to Kinko's, printed, mail it to everybody, invite them to a seminar, and I would give a presentation, and then my colleague give the demo. And that's how we started. And I said, that's marketing. And then they would sending me to trade shows, and I became the person at the presentations and the demos. And that's how I realized that's marketing.
I want to just make sure that we capture a piece or two of what you said for our audience, which is, you said it took me a while to discover my true superpowers. My background was my true superpower. At the end of the day, most of the people that we have interviewed have come to the realization that their background is their superpower. And the sooner you realize that, the lesser the bruise you're going to have in life. And the more you're going to be, like Ana Corrales, comfortable with hearing not only my background is my superpower, but what do I feel comfortable with, whether it's process of elimination or what am I good at? And can I just lean in my strengths as opposed to try to correct my weaknesses or try to do what my mother says.
Yes.
And, a lot of Latinas have a lot of pressure from their families to deliver on salaries or deliver on their dreams or deliver on their expectations. So those are two things that I think, we should deliver as message. Listen to your voice and go back to your background as a superpower.
Yes. I always say that embrace it. Really embrace, lean in. But it took me time because when you're young, you want to fit in. I didn't want to have an accent. I didn't want to talk about it because everybody, I was in the room, they went to camps, they had vacations. I grew up in a village where people were poor. I didn't think they were poor. I never thought about it. But compared to everybody else, they were. Yeah. But I never saw it that way. And so you sort of hide those things. And when you hide those things, you lose yourself. A portion of yourself, you lose it, and your personality doesn't come alive. Two things that made me, one time I was at IBM, I had been there for 5 years already, and I had to deliver this big presentation, and they gave me a speech coach. I'm working with a speech coach in this presentation, and I said to him, I got to figure out how to make my accents not stand out so much. Yeah. And he said to me, why? I said, well, because I want to sound like everybody else. Yeah. And he said, no, you don't. Your accent is actually very lovely. And people will hear and they will listen. Sounding like everybody else is monotone. You actually want to have an accent.
I like that. They will listen.
But what it kills me is that everyone that has spoken about their accent is they retain their true authentic accent because someone else told them.
Yeah.
So many people just don't have that luxury, don't have that luck that they say they just go and put the pencil under their tongue and try to kill their accent or watch someone else or dye their hair or all of those things because no one told them. Listen to your voice. Don't hide it.
Yes.
People will listen.
Absolutely. Listen. Yes, listen to your voice. Your accent is beautiful. Your name is beautiful. Let's talk about my name for a second.
Yeah.
So I move here and people say, what's your name? And I say, Teresa. And they go, what is it? Teresa. What? How do you spell it? Teresa. Oh, Teresa. No. I go, well, Teresa. No. Okay, sure. After a while, you don't want to correct people, which was a mistake. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, mistake. Always don't ever let anybody mispronounce your name. I would have to say in the mirror, Teresa. Learn how to say Teresa, because I don't know, I still don't know how to say Teresa, because people would never say. And then all of a sudden you let it go. Yeah. And you become a Teresa. And then you go back, but I am not a Teresa, I'm a Teresa. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, your name is a beautiful thing, and don't have anybody mispronounce it.
And also it's a sign of disrespect when people just say it in any other way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what happened? You're talking about how you were hiding yourself. You were kind of losing a little bit of yourself by trying to blend in. Why do you think you are now so able to just be yourself? Is it just experience? Is it just that you already made it to the top?
I think part of it is confidence. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it does. When you're young, you don't have the confidence. That's why I speak up a lot on this issue to young people, mm-hmm. because I didn't have anybody to tell me that. I didn't have anybody to say to me, do not follow the norm. And the second thing I realized is when I start doing more public speaking, that if I'm myself, I actually come alive. Mm. And I'm authentic. And I'm better because I'm me. I'm in my skin. Where I'm trying to sit here, you can become uptight because I'm trying to say this word or that word, or don't use your hands, or don't use these gestures. Mm. And then you don't come across as your true self. I think people always say you become your true self, and it's true, but a lot of times you use it just as a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to be comfortable in your skin, often we are, and if we are comfortable in our skin, we are become our true selves.
I want to talk about your career. So from college to IBM, and then tell us more about your career and what are you most proud of career-wise?
So I went to business school and then IBM. 10 years at IBM. Loved IBM. Was my first love. Fun. I got to travel the world. I got to go back and work in Portugal for 2 years.
Oh.
Yes, as an expat. It was amazing. I got to go, every country, can you imagine. It was amazing. Loved it. But after 10 years, I actually forced myself to go. I cried when I left. I didn't have to leave.
Where did you go?
A startup. I felt like if I don't leave, I'm never going to leave. And I feel like I didn't want to be a career in one company. So I left. I went to a startup to be their head of marketing, the CMO as well at the time. And then from that, the startup, then I went to Accenture because Accenture just became a public company. They went from Anderson Consulting.
Wait. You just went too fast. So the startup, how did you pick which startup to go to? I think a lot of people in the corporate world would like to go to a startup, but it's a big risk. So
that's a very good question.
Now.
Yeah, anytime. When you jump from a large company like IBM to a startup, is going to sort of the land of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to sort of jump right in, but you have to choose the right startup. So at the time, because I'm at IBM, I was already an executive, I had a lot of companies come to you at the time. You have to be selected. I went to one that was already an enterprise software company.
Mm-hmm.
This was not the dot-com years, was not as a startup that had already created a solution and had clients. So I wanted to be something was software related, and it was enterprise, and they already had a client.
So it wasn't like Series A. It was already.
It was not
revenue.
It had revenue and already a vision, and that's why it made sense for me. I was not employee number 1. I was employee number 200.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My husband makes fun. Not makes fun, actually. It's the opposite of fun. He says that I'm the only person he knows that has gone to startups and has made money. Like, it's not like I was in Facebook, but I've been in 3 startups, and most of the people that I know that went to startups thinking they're going to become millionaires, and most startups fail. So I think, like, if you're thinking about going to a startup, either go late or really do your homework, right? And you want to join an industry that is growing, a company that you believe in the founding team, that has good investors. Like, do your homework. It's not just, they're going to tell you you're going to be a millionaire. Every time you go to a startup, they're like, we're not going to pay you any money, but we're all going to become millionaires. And most people don't. So
if you think of Silicon Valley, it's actually more like a cemetery.
Yeah.
Right? People don't talk about the 99% of companies that failed. You only talk about the unicorns.
Yeah.
But absolutely do your homework and go to something you understand. Mm-hmm. You understand the business. Don't go to something you have no idea what they do. How do they monetize?
Yeah.
Right?
So from there you went to Accenture and started getting more in consulting, which is something you do now, consulting tech.
Then I went to Accenture. And I went to Accenture, I actually thought I was going to stay only there for 3 years.
Why?
To help them, because I wanted to help them productize their service.
Can you explain to our audience what productize means?
So how do you take a service today and treat them like a product? So a service, instead of just selling the people, make it repeatable.
Yeah.
You make it like a product, and you said, okay, I take it from here. We done these 10 projects. Let's take these 10 projects and repeat them 100 times over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then you create them, sort of put it like a product wraparound. I learned marketing at IBM because it was a product company. I worked every 2 years. I got moved. I go from brand to industry marketing to product marketing. That's where you really learn marketing. I always tell people, if you want to start with marketing, start in a product company. It's a great way to learn.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I started at Nestle.
Yeah.
So
if you like marketing, start in a product company.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also because those companies, the marketing team has a big influence in what the product ends up being.
100%.
Yeah.
And yes, so I went here to really help them do that. I did that. And then I ended up staying because Accenture was a really great company for me. I got married, had kids, and really enabled me to be a mother and to be an executive. So for that, I'm always grateful. At Accenture, I learned different skills, different leadership skills. Like when we were talking about earlier at Accenture, one of the things I learned, and I don't know if I learned or I sort of utilized it, is this ability to less is more. Mm-hmm. Focus on the things because you're in a large company. What are the thing that you're going to do? What is the thing that makes the highest impact? Because everybody will throw 100 things at you. You can work 80 hours a week, but doesn't mean it was impactful. Yeah. I'd rather have somebody that works 20 hours a week but makes great impact.
So do you have a framework for that? Because you've mentioned it a few times already, that you have this uncanny ability to identify what you should be spending
Eagle eye.
time.
Eagle eye, yeah.
How do you do that?
I do think one of the things for me, intuition is I always think something, I don't know if I learned it early on, but to me is prioritization. Most people think prioritization is about deciding the things you are going to do. It's the opposite. It's deciding the things you are not going to do. Yeah. So that's what to me, that's what you find. I could work all day long, but pick these things. Like, I'm not going to do these things. I'm not going to spend a lot of effort on them. Yeah. But these are the things we're going to do. Now, but that takes bravery and it takes a risk. So you have to be comfortable if those things don't pay off, that, you might be exposed. Yeah. But I do believe that it's important for us to do that, and especially as executives, to make those big bets. So Accenture, because of such a big company, I had to do that. I'll tell you another story back to IBM. I always thought about this. One day I was in Portugal. Mm-hmm. I went there to launch the IBM software group. Mm-hmm. Great experience. And I'm in a train going from Lisboa to Porto. First, the largest city, Lisboa, to the second largest city.
The
Porto.
Only two places in Portugal I've been to.
The event? Yes. Most people heard of it. Yeah. What's your favorite city?
Porto. Yes.
So I'm going from Lisbon to Porto in this train with a colleague that came from America to do this road show. And we're sitting in the train and we're looking out the window. You see all these like poppy flowers, like farms of all these poppy flowers. And once in a while, you see one poppy flower stands out. You can see it from a distance. And he looked at me and he said to me, "Did you see all these poppy flowers?" I said, "You see once in a while, you see one that stands out?" I go, yeah, I see that. He said to me, "To succeed at IBM, you have to be that poppy flower. Figure out a way that you stand out. That's the only way you're going to succeed in that large company." And that stayed with me. So then I always look, what is the thing that's going to make me the poppy flower? What is the project, the things I should be doing?
That's your prioritization.
That's a prioritization. And then you deprioritize the ones that are not. And it makes you, it's the company that's going to have the impact in the company.
Home runs.
Yeah, home runs, absolutely.
Well, I do want to ask about like what you're doing right now with Publicis Sapient, and maybe just explain what Publicis Sapient is. I mean, like, we have a very large group of people that care about marketing in our audience. I mean, we're marketers. We have a non-for-profit that is marketing driven. I'd like to know more about Publicis Sapient. What is exciting about the technology piece that you're seeing here? What are your clients excited about in the future, and how can we use this technology for the advantage of our community, particularly changing our perception?
So Publicis Sapient, in the simplest terms, I would describe it as a digital consultancy that we help clients transform their business using digital technologies at the simplest level.
Is it both in terms of how they operate internally and how they go to market?
Yes, both. Okay. How to use those technologies to become more efficient in their business, but also how to drive a better customer experience and drive more growth for their business and for their clients. So we are in the digital transformation business. And the way we always think about digital transformation at Sapient, which might be sometimes different from others, we always think of digital transformation is from the outside in versus the inside out. Meaning, what should be driving your transformation, it should be from your customers. Yeah. What are you doing that's going to impact your customers? It's not to say what you should do your business, but you should drive it from the outside with the eye in the customer. And that's the way so that we always approach it. So that's as a company. So we work with large brands like Walmart, McDonald's, large banks,
and retailers. Your competitors are Accenture,
Deloitte, and some of the IT service providers. Accenture, Deloitte will probably be our largest competitors. And I joined Publicis Sapient 6 years ago now. And when I joined because I really wanted to transform their business. I remember when Sapient was born in the 90s. I was in Boston. It was like a cool company. It was a digital, sexy company. And then 30 years later, or 25 years later, when they reached out to me, I was wondering what happened to the brand.
Yeah.
I think it went sort of to different iterations of the brand. So I wanted to join to help really reshape the company, not just the brand, but the strategy. That's why I joined, because I think a truly CMO has to be a leader that not just drives the marketing, drives the strategy of the company.
Yeah.
That's how you're really a CMO. Otherwise, you're just a VP of marketing. Yeah. So for me, it was really important, that aspect of it, to come in and say, what does it mean to be a digital transformation, and what does it mean to us, and to redefine it. And what I believed that we could redefine, because by the way, when I joined, I came from Accenture. So we were talking about digital transformation from 10 years ago already. It was not like a new term.
Yeah.
But I came in and said, we're going to call it digital business transformation, where we were talking about it, because I believe you could not have the D without the B. Having just digital, the D, without business, it was just like what I used to call random acts of digital, where companies get a lot of technology. It becomes like spaghetti, but it didn't really change the business. Yeah. Because to change the business, you have to change the process.
Yeah.
You have to change how you do it. And we'll talk about today even more so with AI. So I joined 6 years ago for that reason, to bring the sexy back, which was the brand. I wanted to do that. Yeah. And 3, because I really believed that we could, really transform this company. So here we are, 6 years later, we double our revenue. We are leaders in the digital transformation space.
That's amazing.
Like when I joined, I used to have to go around to say, we're not an agency. We're not an agency. We're a consultancy. Nobody questions that today.
It's just that the name, like when you say Publicis, I think people make the connection, but after you explaining it, it's very clear that.
And you got your Clios from there.
I got the Clios from a project that I'm very, very proud of. You asking me one of the things I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the career I had, the opportunities I was given to work in such smart companies, smart people from all amazing brands, brilliant companies. But the thing I feel like I'm the most proud of is actually 2 things. One, I think in this job, I feel like I built probably the most innovative team in the industry. We have a team, we constantly change, we're just scrappy, and we love. I thrive in change, as you can see. I love evolution. I really love that. That's something that, and I think we live in a world that, like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'll tell you, it will be different.
Yeah.
Change is amongst us. But the other thing that I'm really the most proud of, which with the Clios come, about 3 years ago, I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to tell stories how technology, especially digital transformation, actually impacts people's lives. Not companies. Yeah. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Individuals, people like you and I. Yeah. How does that has an impact in the person, a positive impact?
Yeah.
Because as you can see, the last few years, the negative discourse about technology has been very pervasive, and for good reasons. Yeah. Technology is not always a force for good, but it can be a force for good. So I wanted to tell the story, and I wanted to tell it from the eyes of end user. How do we pick a person, tell their story, that technology changed that person's life?
Yeah.
So I made that decision, and I wanted to do it. This was bravery comes in, right? And without ever talking about us or talking about our brand. So we searched for a director to create documentaries, short film documentaries. And we found this incredible director, which he now has 2 Oscars that he won, not from our films, but from the work he has done. He had 2 times Oscar winner. And we partnered with them to go find these stories and create the stories. And the stories
were true stories.
True stories. Was work that we have done, right? So that's clients who we have done, but that's the client's clients. The client didn't even know these people that we done the work. And I said to him, I want to tell the stories. And I told them, if you can't find the story, we won't do the project. And I already paid him
to find it.
We find it with them together. We went and find it together. But I said, but if the story is not,
we're not going to fake it.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
So, and that was my mandate. So we did it together.
Yeah.
We went through a first story we did. It's called a film called Never Done. Never Done is a story that happened right during COVID in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And this mother of 2 children, she couldn't go to work because if she got COVID, she could, I think she had a problem with her lungs and actually could impact her health. So because of that, she didn't have an income and felt short on her rent. And she was about 48 hours from being evicted. Really, like she's been giving notice that she was going to lose her apartment. The Biden administration at the time is giving a lot of money, support to people with their mortgage or assistance for their rent. But by the time that money was getting to the states, to the cities, to the municipalities, it took a lot of time. Yeah. So when I got to Charlotte, they called us and they said, we need your help to really help digitize so we can distribute these funds. And we did it within 2 weeks. And then they created this pop-up location. She saw an ad on TV to say, there's a pop-up location. If you are in need, come here. She went, literally 48 hours. She had a check and she was able to stay in our house. So when you watch the documentary, we not talk about our work. We don't even mention our name.
No? Not even at the end?
At the end, we say I'm listed as executive producer. That's it.
It's not like, I'm sure you had like your CEO or president being like, we should just put a small logo during the entire documentary. No, that's what we usually want.
He never saw it until it was done.
Okay.
Because I didn't want anybody, because if I show it to him, to say, oh, exactly for that reason. Can we just put like our name at the beginning or say thank you? No. This has to be a true story and a true documentary. So absolutely. I mean, actually, to be honest, I often tell the story. It's like it could have been a career disaster if this didn't go well. But I believed in that. So that was the first film we did. The second film is called Forgiving Johnny. And the story takes place in LA with this Latino young man. He has mental disabilities and he gets into his sister's house, gets in an argument with their sister's husband, and the sister doesn't know what to do, calls the police come and they arrest him. And now he faces up to 20 years in jail. And this is a person that he shouldn't be in jail.
Yeah.
And no, California actually has a law called the diversion law. They had passed 3 years ago that if you can prove that you have a mental disability, you don't go to jail, you go to treatment. But if you are a public defender, you don't have the time or the funds to have to prove and show all the documents. We had just done a project. This actually took 10 years. We digitized over 150 million records for the LA Public Defender's Office.
Through technology.
To technology.
Right.
And we brought all the different systems together.
Yeah.
So now the public defender could actually look at the case all in one system. It could go his medical records, his criminal records. He could put it all together and put a case together and to show that he had a mental disability. And it prevented Johnny from going to jail.
Those are the case studies that are amazing. So I can see where you got your Clios. Paint a picture for us about like where technology is going. Like I'd love to just like have a sense of a year from now, 2 years from now, a one-person company. Like how does it look like, and how should Latinos be aware of it? What do we need to do?
Look, technology is all around us. Like we live in a world, like we are technology beings. If you think back even 50 years ago, it was different forms of technology, but humans, we always interact with technology. Now it's all about AI. And I think AI is going to change everything that we do. Every single job is going to be impacted. Now, there is the plus and there's the minus. I do believe, and people don't like to talk about it, in the short term, there will be some losses in jobs. But in the long term, I think will be a lot of gain. I think it's going to be a lot of gain in productivity. I think it's going to be a lot of gain in time, which allow us to do other things. And I think we'll find new jobs will be created. So I actually believe I'm very bullish about it. I'm very positive about it. In my team, when generative AI came into the market 2 years ago, I put a mandate that we have to embrace it, we have to use it. But jobs will be redefined. Go back to what you said, being a generalist. Yeah. I actually think today, being a generalist in marketing is going to be a great thing because AI is going to give you some of the skills. If you're not a good writer, AI is going to help you.
Yeah.
If you even not a good strategist, AI can be, say, your assistant.
Yeah.
I used the analogy, we're all going to become like Iron Man. Every day we put on the suit.
Yes.
And we have superpowers. We're all going to have superpowers. So for Latinas out there, I would say, Latinos don't go a lot into technology. You see a lot of startups, they don't have a lot of Latinos. I think we should all embrace it. And I think we look for opportunities. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of new opportunities. It's like you saw in the .com era, new business that we didn't even think about it. I tell people, this is my ambition for us, all of us. With all this gaining productivity, I believe in the next 10 years, we're just going to work 4 days a week.
Oof, that'd be great.
Instead of 5 days a week, because we are all this extra time.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to do what humans are good at it.
Caring.
Connection.
Yeah.
Connecting.
Yes.
I have one last question and then I'll shut up because Cynthia's giving me the look. I know when she gives me the look. I want to ask about technology. Which jobs are the ones that are going to be affected? We were having a debate over dinner the other night. The senior, the mid, or the junior?
I think it's the middle, because I believe if you're a young person today, you actually, with technology, with AI, you're going to be able to accelerate your career, because you don't have to spend as much time going through all the training, because now you have this companion, right? You have the companion with you. Like, I don't know a lot of, like, investment banking is an example. People, like, you got to work with the junior, works with the senior, you have to train. But now if you have a model, they can help you with all those answers. You can accelerate your career. I actually am a huge believer right now. Liberal arts is a great degree to have, because we kind of moved from to science to engineering. A lot of 40% of the software engineering jobs are already been reduced.
Yeah, because it can be done.
Because AI can
don't
done.
listen to this. Yeah.
Your son is done.
Yeah.
So I have 2 sons in college. They both at Colgate University. And they obviously it's a liberal arts college. And what I tell them to do, to supplement, what I want you to do is to take these extra courses online through IBM, through Coursera, on doing programming large language models. Take them. So if you know how to do that, plus your liberal arts degree, I believe that combination.
You have the creativity.
Absolutely.
But our community is very much on the middle levels everywhere. So how do we do this?
So I think if you're in the middle, I think what I believe people need to do. So what I said, back to that, I think young people accelerate their career. What I think senior people can still need to bring, somebody like me, what I bring to my job is intuition and judgment. I have judgment from experience. Like, think about those films. A younger person wouldn't take that risk. I took it because, 1, I'm not afraid to be fired. 2, I lead with the intuition. But the intuition takes years of experience, and it takes maturity to do. Yeah. On the middle, what I would recommend to people is to say, upskill. Don't be concerned of that. Let's an example. If you are a copywriter today and somebody says, well, I'm going to reduce the number of people because perhaps with ChatGPT can do. But you take your skills. I said, okay, I can take that skill. I can be a great editor. I can be a good campaign. In my team, we've created this thing we call it a flywheel, which is really an agentic marketing campaign system. Yeah. That you can work. You can start from ideation to creation and to publishing, and it does it all for you. But you could say, but who should be the conductor of the flywheel? That's a new role. Could be a copywriter. It could be a designer. It could be a marketing strategist. Just because you didn't come from a marketing background doesn't mean you cannot do their job. So what I say to people, don't put yourself in a box.
Yeah, upskill,
reskill, but
and
also
do it yourself if the company is not doing it for you. Yeah. Like
absolutely.
Go ahead and look at smell the coffee and let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Don't let change happen to you, right? Be part of that.
Yeah. Let's I guess we'll ask you the last question of the interview that we always ask. And I don't know what you were doing when you were 30. Maybe you were in IBM, right? When you were 30.
Yes.
What advice, now with the perspective that you have today, what advice would you give Teresa at 30-year-olds?
I think the same thing that we've been talking about here, that my advice is to say, be yourself. Embrace your background. Embrace your heritage. Embrace your accent. Embrace your loudness. Embrace your emotions. Embrace all of that. Bring all of that and don't ever, ever, ever compromise.
Great.
I love that. Teresa, thank you so, so much for being with us here today. This was excellent.
This was great. I learned a lot, and I hope our audience learns as much too. This was great. Thank you.
Gracias.
And knowing that scrapping is great. I mean, like at the end of the day, there's so many pieces of wisdom. And I hope that with your advice and wisdom, our Latinas are going to be able to lead and succeed.
A la Latina!